I'm not doing it. So I'm just gonna.
Okay, so we are now live. Thank you so much. Today on my show, I keep saying show is that we're just sweeping under the carpet. So
Mhm.
today my guest is Rose Foster, and just in case you guys don't know, I'm Jacqueline-Francis. I'm an author and award-winning speaker as well, and I've written a book called Walk Quiet, Run Quick. And the subject matter of the book is talks about a woman who finds herself in an unhealthy relationship. So the reason why I've set up this platform is to talk about issues regarding the topic in the storyline of this book, and also I will also have guests on talking about this book here, the subject matter, which is sibling rivalry or sibling competition in the blind spot. So yeah, today I'm so happy to say that I have Rose Foster with me today, and she's doing me the honour and the pleasure of sharing with me her story of how she ended up being in an unhealthy relationship. And I know that what Rose will say would be motivational, inspiring, and perhaps give you food for thought if you find yourself in that particular situation. So Rose, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jacqueline. I'm well.
Good, good, great. Thank you so much. So we did speak a couple of, well, I guess it's a few months ago now, really. And I guess when I had my book, when the book first came out, and I was trying to talk to people who experienced, who were survivors of domestic abuse, and you generously shared your story with me. So what I'd like to do is ask you if you again can share to our audience, in case someone might be going through a similar thing or something like that, your story of how you ended up in an unhealthy relationship.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just start by saying it took me a long time to realize that I was in an unhealthy relationship. So I met him, we dated, he took me nice places, we went to restaurants. Right at the very beginning, he used to order my food. He'd go, "Oh, Rose, you like this," and he knew what I liked. I like food, and it was very, very subtle how the abuse started, and it was never a physical abuse. It was always emotional and verbal. But yeah, I didn't realize what I was in because he was so nice and sweet, and he looked after me really, really well. I think that's one of the things that if I was speaking to a younger person, I would say don't be fooled by how nicely you get treated at the beginning,
Mm,
because I, there was nothing was too much problem. Whatever I wanted to eat, wherever I wanted to go, but it was like, oh, let's go see this film. Oh, let's go see this film. We have this discussion, and then it would always be he would always have the final say. Let's do this. He would have the final say. So it was very subtle that my opinion and what I wanted and what I desired became less and less relevant.
yeah.
But even in saying that, it was never shouting. The shouting didn't come until much later. It was just like the facial expression would change, or he'd get very quiet, and then like because I wanted to appease him to get back to it being us getting back to a good place, I would
Mm,
just give in and go, okay, then we'll go there. Okay, then we'll do that. And so that was the beginning of how I slipped into the routine of
mm,
to keep him happy. I just agreed.
mm,
And there was one specific incident that happened in the car, and I actually spoke up for myself because at the beginning, I did used to speak up because I thought I have a right to say I don't like this, don't like that. And
yeah.
he just turned his head and he looked at me, and his eyes were completely black, completely dark. His facial expression completely changed. And in that split second, I kind of knew it wasn't going to end well if I continued to stand my ground. So once again, I gave in. So it was very, very subtle. Like, oh, I don't think red suits you, Rose. I don't think you should wear green. I think those trousers are too tight. And it was always gay. Like, it was always under the veil of, I want you to look good. I'm doing this for you. Like, oh, I don't like that friend, or do you think you spend too much time with your family? And that it was all for me. The thing that I'm challenged with verbal and emotional abuse is it was always about looking after me. It was never, I never realized until much later that actually he was squashing me. He was squashing my opinions, my personality, what I wanted to wear. But it
Mm,
was always done so nicely, so nicely.
right. So these are some of the warning signs, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
And as you said, it's so subtle. It's so
absolutely.
subtle. And it's
Yeah,
all to make you happy, to make
yeah,
you feel good. But ultimately, that was his control over
yes,
you,
yes,
wasn't it? Yeah. And
definitely.
just going back a bit, you were saying that he didn't, you weren't physically abused. It was all emotional and psychological abuse. So did you and you're saying also at the time you didn't even, did you actually realize what was happening?
No, no, because I came up through the school of thought that if you hear emotion, if you hear abuse, if you hear domestic abuse, it had to be physical. He had to be hitting me or something. But because he wasn't hitting me, I did not put the two together that this actually is an abusive relationship
Mm,
because there wasn't, he would just not talk to me for like, if I did something he didn't like, or he would just wouldn't talk to me for a couple of days. But I just thought, okay, he's just sulking. But it took a long time for me to realize somebody not talking to you and invalidating your existence. Like I talked to him, I'd talk and talk for 10 minutes, and he would just get up and walk out the room. Do you know?
oh,
Like, see,
right.
so you actually realize,
In the middle of a sentence, in the middle of the conversation.
well, I mean, I would say, oh, that this happened and I didn't like that and blah, blah. And he would sit very, very still. I think it's something people really like to realize. That's one of the things about the abuse I went through. He would just sit calmly and listen for 10 minutes while I said, oh, and I felt like this. And then when I finished talking, thinking that he's going to go, actually, Rose, I didn't realize he would just get up and he would just walk out the room. So
Oh,
it just made you realize that whatever I said made it just had no effect. So you're
mm,
totally invalidated. My opinion didn't matter. He didn't even think it was worthy of actually answering me. That's how psychological abuse works. You're
mm,
not worthy of an answer. You don't exist. You're not
mm.
saying what I want you to say. So therefore, then I'm going to ignore you until you fall back into line. I think for many years, I just fell back into the line because it was when he was good, he was really, really good, but only if I told the line.
So how did that make you feel emotionally? I mean, you're having this conversation with your partner, and he's just
Yeah.
got up and just walked off. I mean,
You feel
what were
like
your
nothing. You feel like it's really soul destroying. It's a very soul destroying thing to go through because you just realize actually he's not taken on board anything I'm saying. We're not working together. You've just totally disregarded me. And it's a very sad and lonely place to be because the
mm,
one person in life is your husband who you think I should be able to talk to you about this, and he just shuts you down and then doesn't talk to you for 2, 3 days,
oh,
and you go like, oh, like what's the matter? And you go, well, don't want to talk about it. Or there was not even that. It was just like nothing, just silences. Living in a marriage with lots and lots of hours and days of silences is really, really stressful. It's emotionally,
absolutely,
psychologically stressful.
yeah. And can I just ask, how long did this go on for? How long were you married with
I,
him? I mean, was
I
it from the outset of the
no,
marriage?
I think at the beginning, because at the beginning, like, we'd have some disagreement, like before we were like living together or married or whatever. And then like he wouldn't call me for like a couple of days. And I go, okay, fair enough. People have arguments, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then, I'd call and then he'd be like, oh, well, do you think you should apologize for what you said like yesterday? And I was like, well, I just said like I didn't like I don't want you to say that to me. I don't, do you know what I mean? So very early on, I realized that every argument came with me having to apologize or
Mm,
justify or try very hard to get him back on side. And I was very good at getting him back on side, like playing the game. Oh, do you want to go out? Do you want to eat? Should we do this? because I had to appease him to get him back to normal.
It's
So
interesting to say you ended up playing the game.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's not obviously not that's not what you're setting out to do, but in order to, as you say, appease him, you're playing the game.
But,
So
and again, I'm talking, and a lot of things I'm saying with hindsight, because when I was
mm,
doing it, all I wanted was for my relationship to work. So
yeah,
it was like, right, okay, this will make him happy, and this will make us talk again, and then it'd be happy and there'd be fun. So this is what I need to do in order to get him to be nice.
right.
So, you know, so this at the end of the day, one of the challenges I have is because it was so subtle for years and years and years,
Mm,
playing the game. Okay, right, okay, let's just do this. This will make him happy. Let's just do that. It was just when you get to the point where I got to the point where I realized I never ever got to have a say. I never actually had what I wanted. Do you know? And
what
if
was
I
that
did,
point? What was that point? What was that point when you realized that you're playing the game? What was that point when you realized, you know,
um,
weren't being heard?
I think we had like there was many things towards the end, like, but one of the really things that I remember really well was I said to him quite plainly, this is a form of verbal abuse, and I really think that we need to do something about it, and I'm not prepared to put up with this anymore.
Mm.
And I remember it, and he turned to me and he said, "What are you saying to me?" And I said, "We need to. This is this is a verbally abusive relationship." And he turned to me and he said, "I'm not hitting you, therefore I'm not abusing you. If what you're saying to me, if we don't get counselling, you're going to leave me." And I just said, "Well, we need to talk about it." And he just walked out the room.
Right. So it was never discussed again, or
There is no, one of the things, there is no discussion. There was
right.
never a discussion.
Mm,
Discussion's a two-way street. One of the arguments we had was he spoke to me in a, it was very, very off. We had a very situation. I said to him the next day, I said, "You can't speak to me like that. I'm not going to accept that, whatever." And he said to me, "I can speak to you however I want to speak to you. You are my wife." Now, there's no discussion when somebody has that mentality. So you
mm,
are up against it all the time. It's, you
mm,
know, you're my wife. This is how it's going to be. It's my way. And you just get beaten. You get not physically beaten, you get beaten down emotionally. I was very fortunate. I have good family, I have good friends. So I think
mm.
it took me a lot longer to realize what I was in because I still kept my friends. I was still independent. I still worked full time. I didn't have children for him. So I
Mm,
had that independence. So he
mm.
would like, I'd go out, not very often because I did stop going out that often because he didn't like when I went out without him. But I
Okay.
still kept my friends. It's one of the things I'm really glad I did. And I think it's very important that people do keep their friends,
Mm,
regardless of what you go home to. I used to say, I'm going out with my friend, let's call her Jacqueline. I'm going out with Jacqueline. And I'd say to myself, that's going to cost me 3 days of him not speaking to me. But I
all
would
right.
do it. Yeah, I would do it because I just thought I need to interact with my friend. And I
Mm,
came in, he actually knows one of my friends, and I came back from the theatre or somewhere we went, and I said, "Oh, she said to say hi and blah, blah, blah." And he turned to me and he said, "I don't want to hear what she had to say because you should have been here, sat on the settee with me." And then he walked upstairs.
oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So it's psychological, but it's because it's just a constant second guessing, trying to keep them happy. Before he came home from work, watching, have I done this? Have I done that? Is that
Mm,
tidy? Is that neat? And then like just thinking, right, I've done everything. And then he comes through the front door and the one thing I haven't done, that's what he hones in on. So you live in this state of constant anxiety. You walk
mm,
on eggshells the whole time in an emotionally abusive relationship. And he
yeah.
could shout, but I think it was not that any abuse is good, but if you get physical abuse, you're dealt with it. Psychological abuse just goes on and
Mm.
on. Is he going to eat dinner I cooked? Is he going to talk to me the rest of the evening? It just goes on. How long is this one going to
Always
last?
second guessing yourself. You're always trying to
Always,
preempt what might
always,
happen, what may not happen.
the whole
Mm,
time. Hearing like literally hearing the door, the gate open and panicking like, what haven't I done? What could he be stressed about? Has he had a bad day at work? holding your breath and then waiting for him to come in and seeing what mood he was in, it's very, 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 very damaging, very draining, because
Exhausting, mentally exhausting as
so
well.
mentally exhausting. And then he used to have this way, we'd argue, then we'd fine again. Then, like, I'd go, okay, I'm going to bed. Then I'd go to bed, and then 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd throw the bedroom door open, then start the argument again. So there was no real rest.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because you were on edge the whole time. The only peace that
Mm,
I had was going to work, going to my family, was getting away from
mm,
him. But the challenging thing about it was with my family, like my family, not my family, because he never ever. In fact, when it all blew up, and I told one of my niece what happened, and she said, I've never ever heard him raise his voice, because behind closed doors is what life is about, because you'll never know if anybody's being abused, because it doesn't happen in public.
yeah.
He wouldn't even raise his eyebrow at me in public, but like, we'd leave places, and I could see, you get a sense, because you live on your nerves, and you
Yeah.
just look at him and you could see just his eyebrows would just be a little bit raised, and you'd go, okay, and you'd literally say, oh, okay, blah blah, you sell your buys and everything, and then you'd get in the car and the car door would close, and it would be hell on earth. It was literally, doors
Mm,
is what makes them powerful, because once the doors closed, it was just me and him in the car.
right. Okay.
So that's why I very much stress this sort of abuse, in my opinion, happens behind closed doors.
Right, right. And it's interesting that you say that you're still able, because as some people aren't allowed to have friends
Yes.
or family, but the fact
Mhm.
that you still had your friends and family, and the fact that there was this facade that everyone, as you say, your niece didn't even hear him raise his voice.
It's his
He
voice.
portrayed obviously something different to them, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
as
yeah.
to,
They are the complete Jekyll and Hyde character, and that's because because he was so nice when he was nice, and I
mm,
think that for me, I don't mind saying that's what held me, because when he was nice, best husband ever. You kind of like, I've got the best husband. But when he switched, you were like, wow, who are you? So
mm,
that in itself is really stressful, because you think I get like 3 4 months of just peace and happiness and joy, and then in literally split second time, and he could switch. And I never forget, we were sitting down watching the film one day. He went to the kitchen with something, and he just came back just ranting and raving. You're like, oh my gosh, that's 5 minutes, like,
right,
so you never knew when it was going to turn.
yeah, yeah,
So, and you can't say, and I think one of the things that I say, it's very difficult to say to your friends, because like my friends say to me, like, Rose, we had no idea. Of course you had no idea, because when you're in it, you don't have an idea.
mm,
You really don't have an idea, because when they switch back to the other person, you
mm,
get into that until you start realizing that as it gets worse, the nice person, you get to see him less and less and less.
mm, mm. Is
And
that
then,
why? Is that why some women stay when people? Because one of the questions that one shouldn't ask is why do you stay? Because there could be a load of reasons why you should stay, but you say when he was nice, he was nice.
you
You know,
stay because for a long time, the
yeah,
good outweighs the bad. And then
yeah,
you also have the memory of the good. So even during the bad, you keep hoping, if you cook his favorite meal, have the house spick and span, if everything is exactly how he wants it to be, you'll get that other person back,
mm,
until you get to the point where you realize that other person isn't the real person. This crazy person is the
right,
real person. That is the big switch in the mind that you have to get to, where you
mm,
go, the other person is the fake person. The
mm,
crazy is the real one. All my ex-husband was doing was suppressing the crazy for periods of time, big chunks
mm,
of time. But the
right,
crazy was out. And one of the things that was really, really telling, I think it's one of the last conversations we had, was when he said, the thing with you, Rose, is you want to have an opinion. If you would just do as I say, we would be fine. Now, that in itself, I mean, I was in counseling for a year, so I have worked through this.
Yeah.
That in itself, when somebody wants to take away your right to an opinion, you are nobody, like nobody at all. Was planning a holiday and I said, oh, he said, oh, let's meet at the holiday. Okay, let's just go to Spain, I said, for a quick break. He said, yeah, Spain sounds good. He said, I'm off today. He said, I'll start looking up some stuff. I came home from work and he'd booked a holiday to go to Egypt. No consultation, no text, no phone call, just booked. Because my opinion didn't count.
Mm.
So
Wow.
invalidation is psychological abuse, verbal abuse, the shouting, the name calling, and then the next day it'd be like, it's over, we're over. And then he'd say to me, yeah, but that was yesterday. Why are you still upset?
Mm.
Sticks and stones, but words really do hurt. Yeah, and he could never understand why I would be so upset because once it's out of them, they don't care anymore.
Right, right, right. Okay, so if we can just recap. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'm here. My name is Jacqueline-Francis, and I'm here with my beautiful guest, Rose Foster, who is sharing her story of domestic abuse that she suffered from for a number of years, but now she's managed to get come out of it, and she wants to share her story to help other people, other men or women who may find themselves in that situation. And so, Rose, can I just ask? So, for our young people
Mhm.
who are new to relationships, what advice, if any, can you give to those who are venturing out in new relationships?
Well, the advice I would give to like somebody starting a relationship or a young person starting a relationship is be aware of if your opinion and your voice is being heard.
Mm.
Are you being listened to? Does things that you say upset you? Are they taken on board and changed? Like I don't like when you next see them, have they modified that behavior?
Mm.
So that's that it's important that your voice is heard. I don't like this. I don't want to go here. I don't want to, just you have to be heard. You're entitled to have an opinion. You have to be able to be with somebody and go, I don't like, and not feel any fear. And if you find yourself censoring what you're saying to somebody, then that person perhaps shouldn't be in your life. You
Yeah.
should not have to censor. When you have good friends, you don't censor what you say. They accept you, warts and all. And if you're in
Mm.
a relationship and you're censoring, or you find yourself pulling your personality back, maybe you're really loud and outgoing, and when you're with your other thing, you find you're more quiet because I prefer if he says stuff, I prefer when you're quiet. I don't. That's somebody trying to change your personality, and that is a really big red flag, which
Mm.
I missed. And I will tell people, don't miss those red flags. It's very interesting because my friend,
Wow.
she's this, she's that. And he actually said to somebody I heard after the event, oh, but I will change her. So when somebody wants to change you, that
Mm.
is a big challenge. Acceptance is key in a relationship. So
So at what point did you decide, okay, nothing's going to change? At what point did you decide to start walking away? To
I
walk away?
didn't decide. I can honestly say, I personally, in my own rose self, did not wake up one morning and decide. Domestic Abuse Awareness Month is every October, and I have a really good friend, and they had a free day where you could just go down, and she was saying to me, that Rose, I really think your relationship's abusive. I'd be like, oh, he said this, he hasn't spoken to me for 3 days, over a period of time.
Yeah.
So I actually went down to the Justice Centre, and I remember sitting in the waiting room thinking to myself, well, he's not hitting me, he's not throw me down the stairs. But I sat and I waited and I went in to see that counsellor, and literally, that's when my life changed. The decision was made for me. And I was saying, this is what he does, this is what he said. And she just kept writing and writing and writing. And then she kept saying, that's verbal abuse, that's psychological abuse, that's this abuse. And then the thing that changed my life completely, which you know, still makes me shudder, but was when she turned to me and she said, okay, there's enough information here that the judge will grant you an injunction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And that was the point that I was like, oh wow. Then they were like, right, okay, we can get police escort to get you out, we can this. And she said, and this is one of the reasons why I will always speak, because she said she wished that more people came at the stage that I've come, because he threw my phone on the floor. He started to throw things and
Mm,
used to shout and throw things. This is really towards the end. And she
mm.
said she wished people came at this stage because the next stage would have been physical.
Okay. Yeah.
And I obviously she's a professional, and she said, I've seen this. She said, you're just going, oh, he's just an angry Jamaican man, he did the, but it was all just excuses. Actually, nobody should speak to another person like that. Nobody should not talk to somebody like that. No one should invalidate somebody like that. But my turning point was when she said the judge will grant you the injunction. And at that
Right.
moment, I realized injunctions can be granted even if there is no physical abuse.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what I want to say to the viewers, as Rose has just said, her relationship wasn't physical. And I think you mentioned before that as far as you were concerned, you were in an abusive relationship. It took for someone else to tell you that you were.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
that's
I
the
think
point.
I think the thing was it's one of those things that you start going, this ain't right, and then Uncle Google, you're like, let me do, oh, passive aggressive maybe, or this or that. So you have a thought, you kind of like thinking, this isn't right, but you can't name it until you start doing the research. And I think for me, it was probably like I read this book, I was on so when I actually ended up in the Justice Centre, it was the icing on the cake. It was the deal was sealed because I couldn't deny that I knew there was problems. It was
Mm,
just I didn't realise that it was as serious as a judge going, here you go, here's an injunction, he can't come near you. Do you know, I
mm,
didn't I just thought this isn't how am I gonna fix I just kept thinking it could be fixed because I
mm,
kept making it about me. But at the end of the day, I realized it could never be about me because it's his problem. And one of the things I think a lot of women or men, whoever, you take it on board because we think we can fix them, be better, change them, understand them. But after a while, you realize that it's down to them. This is what Lady at the Justice Centre.
mm.
A lot of women stay, and then the next stage is beaten and or being kicked, or because by nature, women in particular are nurturers, and we think we can love them out of their
Yeah,
crazy. But there's got to come a point where you actually put yourself first, which
yeah,
is what I ended up doing, and had to begin the journey back to health, really, mental health. It took a
yeah.
lot out of me, a lot.
So when you left,
Hmm.
he left, were you fearful? Because, you know, they say that when a woman leaves an abusive relationship, that could be the worst time for
I'm
them.
still. I was fearful for years, and if I'm honest, I'm probably still fearful.
Mm,
It's you've lived with the threats, you've lived with the if you ever try and divorce me, if you ever do, you've lived with that for years and years. So when you make that stand to get out, you are fearful, but you have to rely on yourself, if your faith, your friends, your family, and the system, the justice system. You have to. I had like when I had to have a police like WPC whatever, and she said basically because it's so rife, this sort of abuse, they aim to get a cop car to you within like maximum 6 minutes. So she
right.
said basically if you see him, because I was like, he's gonna this, because he's threatened me, he threatened me with so many things. And so you live in fear that he could actually see these things out. But in the back of my mind, she said, so always have your mobile charged, always have your mobile ready in your bag. Or and if you see him, say, I don't want to, I can't speak to you, don't da, 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 and then just start screaming and making the most noise and just tell everybody to call the police. She said, you have to, and all these things you hear, but then you
Mm,
go, oh my gosh, this is my life. But the police officer that I spoke to, she said it's almost to get women to understand people are there to support you.
right.
Sometimes
Yes.
in those relationships, they make you really think that there's no
Yes.
safe place. There's no safe place, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is. So
So when she was saying for you to, make sure you have your phone, did she also mention sort of like, escape places or people to contact or pack a bag or stuff like
Oh,
that?
like what was interesting was before I even ended up at the Justice Centre, I had the shelter number programmed into my mobile phone. I had
Mm-hmm.
another friend of mine who had like a bag of clothes in her house that I could go to her house. Literally, if I ended up having to run out the house, I could just get to her. So once I could get a cab or a bus or pick her up, I had all these escape plans. I
Oh,
had my
yes.
passport at work. I took my passport out of my house months before I left. So
Wow.
the process had started because
Wow.
you can't like go. If you need to go, you need to go. My bank statements were the thing. Just things had to be in place
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
away. It's the journey to escape is quite a long journey. It's not, you don't just
Mm,
wake up and go, because once you go, it's a big deal. It's a big
yeah. So during this time, do you have children, Rose? I didn't even ask. Did you?
children. I don't have any children, which is why I have been able to do what I have done, because
Yeah.
I have nothing but me. So, and I actually understand that a lot of women are not in the position that I'm in, which is why in some respects I've done it because I could, but I just want to encourage other women that there's a lots of societies out there and lots of places, and it's a big deal, and I understand it because I even worked with a shelter for a while, and it is a big deal to end up in a shelter, especially if they move you out of your hometown.
Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah.
But the journey. I mean, I'm 4 years out, and it's still a challenge in lots of
Yeah.
respects.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Okay. So, I mean, thank you so much, Rose, for sharing your story.
Mm.
Just to sum up, or just to bring it to a close, what advice should we be teaching our young children about healthy relationships? And if so, from what age do you think we should be teaching them about healthy relationships, so that we don't end up, with this? I mean, they say 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men
Mm.
are abusive relationships, and we know those statistics are much higher than that because
Mm.
people haven't reported it. I mean, there's
Mm.
been young ladies that I've spoken to and they haven't reported it. So, prevention is better than cure. And I think that's why I wrote the book, to educate and to create
Mm.
awareness. But,
Mm.
prevention, at what age should we be teaching our young ones about relationships so that
Well,
they
I mean,
don't get.
I have a great niece that has just turned 13, and she's now
Yeah,
interested in boys. So as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, at 13, from they start to notice the opposite sex, it's an age you have to start educating them. Now, if
Mm,
my niece um, has her hair a certain way and she likes this boy, and this boy says, "Oh, I prefer when you wear your hair down," and then it's subtle. But 13, she'll start wearing her hair down because Johnny likes her hair down. And then Johnny
mm,
might like her to wear shorter skirts or more of it. So I think it's that 13 is a very good age to actually start speaking to our youth about
mm.
what healthy, normal relationships look like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, some people even say younger than that, because
Okay.
children are getting into relationship much earlier. I mean, I even was watching a video the other day, and this girl of 12 was, um, her parents put her on contraceptive because she was sexually active, and she was 12.
Wow.
So exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now, but I'd just like to thank you so much, Rose, for sharing your
Welcome.
story. For I hope that this interview has provided some advice or some guidance,
So
um, or
I hope it
have.
helps somebody. I really hope it helps
Yeah,
somebody.
it's just one person, because it is
Yeah.
like a domino effect anyway.
Yeah.
And just check your relationships, checking how you're feeling. Are you able to voice your opinions? Are you able to go with your friends or see your
Yeah.
family, or wear
Mhm.
whatever it is that you want to wear without there being an
Absolutely.
argument? And it's
Yeah.
systematically done. Just because when you're in a relationship, it's you, me, and then us. You're not just one person. It's you, me, and us.
Hmm.
Um, so again, thank you so much, Rose, for taking your time out. And that's it, really. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you
Until
thank you for allowing me to share, and I hope that somebody somewhere has gained some insight to perhaps the fact that their relationship isn't as it should be. That's all
And
I
that,
want.
and also just to talk openly about it, because many people are going through it and they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I put the title as "Stop Sweeping It Under the Carpet," because the
Yeah.
more you sweep your stuff under the carpet, the more it gives power to that person to continue what they're doing.
But I
And
do think, sorry, Jacqueline, I do think that
mm,
there, and I said this to you before, I think it's finding the safe place to discuss what's happening. That's
yeah,
very important. Very important.
absolutely. And I know that some people, you know, they probably won't be able to talk to their family or their friends, or maybe they don't even want to go to a
Yeah.
counselor or anyone like that, you know. But feel free to, I mean,
Go to you.
they can reach out to me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
DM me. There'll be a safe space in confidence. Everything's confidentiality so that you can share your story, because it hurts emotionally. It hurts, you know,
Yes.
you're shackled by these emotions and you don't know where to challenge it. Do you know what I mean? It's telling it.
Yeah.
So if anyone is going through any of those issues that Rose had mentioned, then please feel free to please get in contact. I'm
Definitely.
happy to sit and listen.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. Take
Okay.
care.
Okay. Take care. Bye, guys. Bye.
Okay, so that was Rose there. Thank her so much for joining me. And again, I say that if anyone is going through any of those issues that I mentioned, that Rose has mentioned, then please do feel free to get in contact with me. But please don't suffer in silence. Until next time, stop sweeping under the carpet, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.